Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between a librarian and student wishing to register with the library.
First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5.
Hi, are you here for a library card?
Yes, what do I need to do?
I need to see proof of identity and proof of residence. You can use a driver's license, a passport, a utility contract with your name and address on, or a tenancy agreement. Do you have any of those with you today?
I have my passport and a copy of my landlord's lease agreement. Will they do?
Let me see. You need to fill out this form whilst I check your ID.
It says here that I need a personal identification number to access my account.
You can choose your own PIN. Make it a 4-digit number, but not consecutive numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can't repeat a digit.
I'd like to take out some books today. Will that be possible?
Once I've given you a valid library card and your PIN's been accepted.
Do I need to sign anywhere?
Sign the bottom of the form and also the back of the card once I've finished with it. Have you included your email address? We need this to notify you on your reserves and overdue items. We also email a monthly newsletter that includes details of new titles.
Can I access my account online?
That's right. Just log in with your library card number, shown beneath the barcode, and enter your PIN.
What happens if I lose my card?
We'll cancel your old card and issue you with a replacement for a fee of $1. The first card is free. You'll also need a new PIN. We don't email it, so you'll have to come in so we can reset it.
OK, thanks. Am I ready to start checking out materials now?
Yes, you can access the library catalogue and your account right away. Here's a brochure telling you more about the library's lending policies and rules, as well as opening times, and there's information about late fees and lost items.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10.
OK, I'm ready to take out a few items, but can I go over a few things with you first, please?
What would you like to know?
Is there a limit on the number of items I can check out?
You can have 50 items out at any one time, including a maximum of 10 DVDs and 5 CDs.
Wow, that's quite a lot. What about how long I can take things out for? Books, for example.
The loan period is 3 weeks for books, unless they're new titles, in which case it's 2 weeks. Magazines can be loaned for 10 days, DVDs for 7 days.
And are CDs 1 week, the same as DVDs?
That's correct.
What about renewals? How do I go about renewing items?
You can renew items in several ways, either online by accessing your library account or in person. You can also use our automated telephone renewal service, or you can call the checkout desk.
And how many items can I renew?
You can renew 10 items 4 days into their loan period.
I'm going to be working on a research project. I might need to reserve items that are currently out on loan. How do I go about doing this?
It's through your library account. We'll email you once the items are available. You then have 5 days to pick them up before they go back into general circulation.
And can I just go on the computers when I come in, or do I need to book a slot?
Yes, I'm glad you asked me that. We have wireless laptops for in-library use that can be borrowed for up to 1 hour. It's first come, first served, so you cannot reserve these. Alternatively, you can bring in your own laptop and log into the library's homepage using your library card number and PIN.
OK, that's great. Thanks for your help.
That is the end of Part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear a passenger train announcement about how to board a train with a ticket. First, you have some time to look at questions.
Good afternoon, rail passengers. The train arriving at platform 4 is the overnight express to Telstar City. This is our high-speed, non-stop service with dining facilities and a sleeping car. The train will depart at 15:50 hours. All passengers, including children, are required to have a boarding pass before they can board the train. Please exchange your ticket for a boarding pass at the green booth near the main entrance. When you have obtained your boarding pass, you can access platform 4 through gate R. Passengers without tickets should obtain them from the manned ticket office at the North Gate entrance, or use the self-service ticketing machines located throughout the main hall. Passengers who purchased their tickets online and printed off a bar-coded boarding pass can access platform 4 through gate T, where their passes will be checked prior to boarding. Boarding will begin at approximately 15:05 hours. Please board the class of carriage shown on your boarding pass, either standard class or premium class. Your seat number is indicated on the pass. Reserved seats should be claimed at least 30 minutes before the train is due to depart. Reserved seats not claimed by 15:20 hours will be made available to other passengers. If you have reserved a place in the sleeping car, please show your boarding pass to the attendant on the train, who will direct you to your sleeping compartment. Thank you.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to read questions.
Welcome aboard the overnight express service to Telstar City. Meals are now being served on the train. Passengers travelling in standard class can have a light meal in the dining car, located in the middle of the train, or bring their food back to their seats. A limited selection of meals is available from around €5. Passengers travelling in premium class can have their complimentary 3-course dinner and drinks served in the dining car or at their seat by the waiter. A full selection of meals is offered. This service is also available to sleeping class passengers. Passengers in the sleeping car have a 5-star continental breakfast included in the price, and they can purchase additional drinks and snacks from the attendant. Thank you.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3. Part 3.
You will hear a conversation between 2 students and their professor discussing an essay. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
For next week, I'd like you to undertake a piece of research in preparation for writing your final essay. In order to gain top marks, you must include a range of primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Are there any questions?
Yes, Professor, I have a question. We haven't yet covered how to undertake this sort of research in much depth, and I'm a little unsure of what you want us to do. In telling us to include primary sources, do you mean you want us to design and distribute a questionnaire, analysing the results?
You could design a questionnaire, but you'll soon find that distributing a questionnaire on such a large scale is somewhat troublesome. We couldn't possibly expect you to do it effectively as an individual university student without the necessary resources. No, ideally, I would like you to form 1 or 2 focus groups and interview them. This will provide you with a more qualitative approach. If your strengths lie in mathematics, please by all means take a more quantitative approach, but this will be more strenuous and time-consuming and isn't entirely necessary for the purpose of this study.
Professor, you haven't told us what our project is about. Do we get to choose our own topic based on the previous study?
No, I'm afraid not. This will be a strictly Australian study. However, you can choose which angle you'd like to take, so long as it remains within the realm of anthropology. Does anyone have any questions specifically about the formation of the focus groups? I'd had several emails about this, and I'd like to address it now.
My study is related to growing up in Australia and the question of nature versus nurture. I've gathered more than 200 school children who would be happy to participate in a focus group. Do you think we'll need to include that many participants in a focus group?
Blimey, Douglas, well done for finding that many willing children, but you definitely don't need that many for the study you're going to undertake. I'd say you need no more than 5 children per group, and no more than 3 groups, so 15 children altogether. You definitely need to control the group size in order to generate a meaningful dialogue.
OK, if it's useful, I'll try and do it.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for the project, but there are plenty of different ways to gather data, and I'm sure that if you look hard enough, you'll find someone who has conducted almost the exact same research in the past. My advice for you is don't be too ambitious and try to include as much information about various people or sectors.
For those who haven't ever collected original data before, what do you suggest we do?
I would suggest that you read accounts from other people who have undertaken such research to see what advice they can give. I would also encourage you to read Chapter 8 in the course textbook, which should give you a good introduction to collecting data. Moreover, you should try to practice using the data table provided in your course handbook. By now, you should have read at least 6 or 7 books giving quite detailed instruction on how to go about collecting data.
Professor, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm having trouble reading the books. I had a really big assignment for another course, and I've been spending all my time on that. Jane, have you read all the books the Professor mentioned?
Well, my trouble is getting hold of the books. I've been to the library several times, but all the books are out.
Sounds like you should have started borrowing books a bit earlier.
Yes, I should have. But I got several ones from my friend a couple of days ago. I just skimmed through them and don't remember a lot of the information.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
But now let's look at these things. We'll need to start thinking about which ones we'll definitely want to do for the project.
OK, the first one here is the final report.
If you like, we can work together on the research and data collection side of the project and doing the final write-up.
Cool, that sounds good. I'm not sure how much I'd be able to contribute considering I haven't had a chance to read the course material, but I should be able to prepare some sheets and a list of questions that can be used during the focus group sessions.
That sounds appropriate. I think so too.
Do you think we'll need to write a letter to send to the participants, telling them the time and place for the interviews?
Positive. I can take care of that.
Well, that's great.
I should also include a document for them to sign saying that they're happy to be voice recorded.
Oh yes, of course, I forgot about the transcript. That'll likely be a big job, so let's do half each.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a talk on the research of the graphical symbol. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the graphical symbol. A graphic symbol is a written symbol that is used to represent speech, such as those used in the Greek alphabet. The term graphic symbol encompasses anything from the logographs used in Egyptian hieroglyphic writing to ancient Chinese pictograms. Early symbols were based on pictographs and ideograms before they were developed into logographic writing systems. These systems are still in use in some non-literate cultures in Africa, the Americas, and Oceania. Indeed, elements of pictography are still found in modern Chinese characters, and it is often an interesting exercise to trace the origins of some Chinese characters. Pictographs remain in common commercial use today as signs, instructions, or statistical diagrams. Road signs and public toilet signs, and even flat pack assembly instructions utilizing pictures, are considered pictographic. Ancient graphic writing systems provide researchers with a wealth of knowledge about past civilizations. In 1799, one of the most important historical discoveries was made by accident when members of Napoleon's expedition to Egypt found a stone in Rosetta that exhibited 3 different scripts. The stone, now known as the Rosetta Stone, was studied in significant depth by scholars and was first deciphered by Frenchman Jean-François Champollion in 1822. He was able to correctly determine the phonetic values of the symbols, and later research has confirmed his findings. In many of these symbols, lines are used to portray a multitude of meanings, and knowledge and understanding of these lines holds the key to comprehension of graphic writing systems. A key moment in the history of communication was the invention of the camera obscura, or camera. Although the concept can be traced back to the 5th century BC Chinese philosopher Mo Ti, the first photographic image was ultimately created in 1826 by Joseph Nicephore Nicephre. Photography, as it was later known, enables researchers to piece together and better understand history. Today, photography forms a huge part of everyday life, and most publications contain a vast number of photographs. Photography is used in advertising and is now becoming a way to increase awareness of existing world issues. For example, animal welfare charities are increasingly using photography to advertise animals that are at high risk of endangerment. Charity workers are sometimes flown to far-flung locations to document the suffering endured by high-risk animals in an attempt to raise human awareness of their consumption activities and how they impact others. One recent high-profile campaign was undertaken by attaching a camera to the foot of a bird in order to obtain photographs of the animals in their natural habitats and understand how often they come into contact with human waste. A soon-to-be-released documentary about the suffering of animals on Midway Island shows the full extent to which human consumption is harming animals thousands of miles away from us. As photography continues to progress, with the use of drones now becoming somewhat commonplace, we should expect more and more objects to be included in the future, expanding the horizon of photography ever further. Indeed, the downward pressure on traditional media prices means that media companies are being forced to get creative on how to make a profit. Many have found that the answer to this lies in advertising, and companies are now willing to devote a large portion of their budgets to advertising in newspapers. By the same token, marketing has become an essential part of a company's business model, often meaning the success or failure of a company. As a result, much time and money has been pumped into the development of effective branding, with attractive packaging playing a large role in this. However, many governments are now seen to be cracking down on marketing and packaging in an attempt to protect consumers from being misled. In particular, tobacco companies are now subject to ever-increasing regulation. For example, in the United Kingdom, legislation is soon to pass preventing any form of branding or differentiation on cigarette packaging in efforts to curb the harmful effects of smoking. Finally, one must not forget the fundamental role that graphic writing systems have had to play in mathematics. Graphs, icons, and diagrams often form the very basis of these branches of academia. Indeed, one needs to look no further than chemistry's periodic table to see a perfect example of graphic writing systems in use today.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.